Afternoon and welcome to the May 7th, 5:30 p.m. Board of Supervisors special call meeting. This time I'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Tadlock, you got some county administrator items.
Yes, sir. The first item we have is the school bus discussion. I know that there was some discussion related to the CIP program and some options for buses. So I'll turn that over.
Okay. And I see on Diligent, under the topic of the school bus discussions, we have the school CIP that the superintendent had put in also to go by. Everybody see that? Okay. All right. What do we have to discuss? What are we going over?
Mr. Chairman, I asked the Transportation Department here along tonight to give a talk on how the buses and how we are situated and the needs that they need and they see that we need. So I've asked them to come tonight just to talk for a few minutes too, if that's okay, and give us a report on the situation.
Okay. Come right on up. How you doing, Donnie? What can you tell us about your buses?
I think that school buses.
Can you come over to the mic, please?
The fleet is very old, so
Hello.
Yep.
Okay.
We got you now.
The fleet is aging rapidly. I didn't bring no numbers with me tonight. They have it all. You can look at the years, the mileage on the buses. The buses are I stand before you to tell you that the buses are safe, because if they weren't, I would take them off the road. I'm not going to put any children, any of our employees in harm's way. But the unknown is what I can't see. The state gives us a guideline. Am I correct in saying that? The state? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We're way behind that. I'm not here to campaign that. We started incorporating some used buses into the fleet. I talked with Mr. Harris a little bit this past week. My boss, Dr. Leslie, has presented a bus replacement plan, and I don't know if any of y'all have had the opportunity to look at that. I stand behind her on that. The situation that we're in now, backing up, we've had incorporated some used buses, and it depends on how the county wants to move forward with this, on what you're asking me to give you my opinion on. So
right now on your fleet, we know that some of the buses are quite old. They're safe. But as far as something happened to a bus tomorrow, do you have any backup buses?
One, I do. I have one now. I've been working on that for the last 2 weeks. I had 2 spares, and I've got I have one. One spare. I have got a bus with a blown up engine. I've had that since the beginning of the year. I have a bus that's got a head gasket leaking, and we've nursed that along for about almost 3 years. It's pouring antifreeze out faster than we can put it in. I feel like it's leaking at the head gasket. We're not set up for that. And I just wanted to put the bus off to the side so it wouldn't further damage the bus if it's repairable. I'm finding that going to the bus shop is not very cheap. And then we're finding out that, you repair an old bus, you can't hold these people to the whole bus, then you got one thing goes to and leads to another. You fix that, leads to another. We've got old buses that we're dumping good money into, but we have no choice. I mean, we just have no choice where we're at. So, we need new buses, and I know that they're very expensive, but we need new buses. And again, Dr. Leslie has presented several options on how she feels that we should proceed, and I agree 100% with her. But again, I don't know what the county's position is and what y'all in favor of. Used buses are cool until they're not. Here's what you're buying. Okay, I just gave Mr. Harris price on some buses with 130,000 miles on them, 2016s. You're already in the 10-year. You're already in the 10 years are gone. So you've got, by the standards, 2 more years for that bus. And then buses might go another. I'm not interested in flooding the fleet with used buses, but my day starts at 5:30. I never know what I'm going to walk into in the morning. I guess what I'm saying is however the county decides they want to proceed, in which direction they want. I guess we have no choice. We presented you what we felt like would be a replacement plan.
With some of the options that Dr. Leslie has for year one, and after hearing your concerns and maybe not having any backup buses, would you think the better option for this year would be to purchase some of the used buses to get the fleet numbers back up where you would have some reserve buses and come back next year to purchase the one new bus to kind of blend it all in as we move forward? And what I'm looking at, I'm not trying to tell you how to run your bus shop. I want to know what would work best for you guys if you have breakdowns and you don't have a bus to put on the road.
Well, if we could get 3 to 4 used buses at $30,000 a piece, I think that would be pretty much close to the price of one brand new bus. That would help the situation for next year, because I'm losing two buses at a time, and we're in the window where we're going to lose 3 or 4 buses at a time. Then it's going to be hard for transportation to keep up. You're going to get kids home at 7 o'clock at night. It's just the way the routes are stretched out. And then you're holding employees at the school to watch these children. We can't just leave them, by themselves, which that you get into financial side of that. Maybe I'm speaking out of line of that, but I'm just saying that that's the overall picture. When you got 2 or 3 buses, two buses is bad. And you start getting 3 or 4 buses at one time, it's going to be real bad.
As you can see, one bus is not going to correct this issue.
No.
That obviously for next year. And that's why we had talked about maybe the used bus route. And what Don and we all talked about is keeping this bus system uniform. We buy one type of bus and stick with that bus. So parts, software are all readily available. They can store these parts in that shop. They're not out looking for parts. They're all interchangeable. And I think we need to do that, because how many different bus features you running 2 or 3 different softwares right now just to keep your bus fleet, which is not good. Again, some of them are not good buses, in my opinion, just knowing the history of them.
I will say that if we went off, I would desire to have all Freightliners, which are Thomas buses, very nice buses. And our drivers enjoy, they're comfortable and all. The international, we have engine trouble, as you can see. We were here earlier this year, and then as you all approved the engine, I lost another engine, international. And I can't get 100,000 miles out of them. I'm just going to be realistic with you.
The Freightliners have Cummins motors.
Cummins motors,
which are
in
very good diesel.
And the older Freightliners that I will eventually move out of the fleet have Mercedes-Benz, which are Detroit engines. I have very little problem with it, but the problem is the engine's not the problem. It's the other things, and it's not $1,000, $2,000. It's $5,000, $10,000 at a pop. And when I start looking at that, so after about 4 trips of that, we can get a used. Yeah, again, I'm not interested in flooding our fleet with used buses, but if we can get us in position to incorporate new buses in, which I think is necessary. It's not an option. And I know they're expensive, but I mean, I don't know what else to say about that.
How many miles are we putting on a bus in a year? How many miles are we putting on a bus in a year?
Oh, depending on the route. Ron, what do you think? 10, 12,000 miles, 10 to 12,000 miles. Some buses get a little bit more than that. We got buses going to the Votech Center, passing each other, and we got buses going to Governor School. Third of my fleet has probably got 300,000 or more on it. Another third's probably got over 250,000 on it. These buses, what I told Mr. Harris, we need new buses if we don't for anything. Number one, for the routes, for one, but I mean, we also need dependable trip buses when we go across the state in events with the athletic department or just kids in general, when they approve field trip. I mean, I can't send a bus with 300,000 miles clean across. I won't even put it on the other side of Richmond, It's just, a tow bill that far away, you're looking at about $2,000, to get it back to the shop. And it's just not feasible.
Mr. Harris, you got any other questions?
No, just thank you for talking and explaining this to everybody. We greatly appreciate it.
I mean, we would be grateful for. I mean, I know we need to move in a direction.
Mr. Long, you got any questions?
No, not at this time.
Mr. Williams, got any more?
What kind of money are you talking about for one new bus and one used one? 167.
You got 155 in here for a new bus.
Prorated. They're going to fix that for the next fiscal year. About 155,550. We used a mean of 26,962 for a used bus, and that was a mean based on a number of estimates that we had for used buses. Try to come up with a
Was that the Freightliner bus?
The used buses are, yes, sir.
How about the new one? Was that the price of a new one? Was that Freightliner?
155,550. Yeah.
Yes.
They're a little bit more expensive than the International.
The Freightliner buses are, but they're the buses that
Much more quality bus.
Yes, sir. We're getting the best lifespan and
Listening to what you were saying, I don't know what the finances what we can do about that. Certainly, you had spoken about one new bus a year.
I put several plans, and
Yeah.
I understand they're expensive.
Yeah.
I also understand we're really far behind the eight ball.
Well,
That's why I did a bunch of different.
looking at that as far as catching up, one new bus and one used one would put you ahead of the game a little bit, wouldn't it?
So I did present a plan for a used bus, new bus, then used, the new, doing over the next 5 years. So, I presented 4 plans, not to say that those are the only 4. I tried to break them up so that you could look at finances of Buffalo, most reasonable county. Surely, the optimal plan that we would love is a new bus in the next 5 years, whether or not that's why we consider a alternative plan. Say, well, okay, we get 2 in, then 1 and 2, or 1, 1, 1, to kind of, break that financing. But at least it will put us on the path to building some options.
And one thing I'd like to say that probably, and Jimmy will probably understand, it's not like getting an automobile. I want to go down here and you're a year getting a new bus. You order one today, it's going to be this time next year before you get a new bus.
That's right.
Used buses, and I'm going to be very honest with you, I'm not interested in buying used buses from anybody but Sonny Merriman. The service is there. They stand behind everything that they do. We've gotten 4 buses. We had one issue with one of them. They took care of it. They didn't start the warranty until the bus was fixed. And he told me, he said, Donnie, if there's any problem with the bus, please contact me. He said, I'll make it right. The service part on my end, I mean, I can call anybody and I can get the help. I got the support that I need from them. It's up in the air with internet. I don't care for the international buses. but that doesn't mean we can't have, but anyhow, and the thing, what I was getting ready to tell you about the used buses, that price that I told you, he said that, you know, they're first come, first serve. He said, once I send this list out, they're going to go. He told me if you want to come, I told him I cannot commit to anything until he said, if it works out where they agree on whatever, you tell me how many buses you want. And he said, now hold them.
And this is where we kind of need to move fast because every school is facing this issue right now. And they'll be looking for these buses.
Well, that's the fact.
So we don't want it to sit around till August and start looking for a bus because they won't be out there then. And that's what I wanted to bring down here to explain tonight. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, because I know that we have a process to go through, and I understand that, and I wouldn't want to rush it. But that's what, you know, they might not be. That's what happened last year with the 52,000 we wanted for the two buses. They weren't available, but we were able to get two others cheaper. It just worked out that way. So
Okay, we get back to it.
right. Yeah. They were gone. Yeah. I mean, you know, and I don't expect them to hold. I mean, if he says that we're going to get them, he'll hold them for me.
Okay.
But I'm not committing to that till I get the green light.
Mr. Williams, you had a question.
Well, yeah, but I'll speak to Keith's point. I wouldn't be hesitant to act quickly on two used buses, but I'm still not sold on whether two new buses versus one new bus is the right
Used
versus one new is the right way to go at this point.
You'd rather go with one new.
I'm not sure.
Here's my thing. He's only got one extra bus right now. One. So if we get one new bus, he's still in the situation. You got 1 to 2 extra buses. Something breaks down. Just trying to build something up to where he's got 2 or 3 extra run next year until we can start this process. And if it's ordering for this year, for next year, as he said, this bus not going to be available at this time next year, the next school year. And I'm sure they might need a deposit, but the money won't be funded until that part either.
And it just takes time to build them. I mean, it just does. I mean, you know, so I mean, I still think, you know, we need to incorporate the new buses. I mean, even if we have to wait a year, but I mean, if we can do the bus in 2 used buses at this point, or whatever we can get, you know, it is going to be a help. Like I said, I never know what I'm going to walk into.
Donnie, what's the oldest bus in the fleet that the county bought new?
The last bus we bought brand new.
Not the last one we bought new.
No, the last, let me back it up. This is the way I know it. The last bus we bought was the 2024, 2023, 2022 stop. The last new bus we bought was 2017. After that, 2016, 2015, so on. We were buying.
These are still in the fleet.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have buses that are outside of the income also about half of the mileage. So we have a mixed bag. We have some that have aged out. We have some that have aged out, but still have lower enough mileage that they are within. And I gave you guys the number. We're at about 50%, 48, right? Are aged out of where they should be either for mileage or and what I did was check that against the 5 years of CIP, and we don't do anything, we'll get to 76%. That's what I would work for like that.
5 years ago, they were like 79,000.
Yes. So we got 2 problems. Even if we went with a new bus, we're going to be a year at getting it. So I understand, you know, we need to have something now to fall back on. My way of looking at it, I think if we went with two used buses, we need to start the process of getting a new bus to where we can accept it within right before next year. I don't want to order a bus next year and we're another year getting it. Then we're 2 years behind. Well, if that makes any sense.
If I may, but if, like I said, if you all decide, let's buy one tonight, Donnie, go get one, it's going to be a year.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we need to plan. If we're even thinking about a new bus, we need to put that in our plan now to at least start it in motion for it to be built, even if we have to pay down some on it, and be able to have that bus in 12 months. Because if we don't, it's going to be another 12 months. We're going to be 24 months.
And it may not be, maybe a little less, but they tell me that that's just a bonus. That's what it is. If they get it out faster, then it's a bonus. But they're telling 12.
Because, Mr. Harris has got a good concern about not having something to fall back on. But Mr. William also has a good one too, and you said it too, we don't want to flood the fleet with used buses. We got to have some new ones blending in. And I think we need to look at that. You want to be 24 months, almost 24 months getting a new bus. We wait.
Well, you've got one bus down there too that needs a new motor. Have you got
Yes,
a motor for that?
no, and I'm not interested in that bus is in the bubble where it's too good to throw away, but too old to put an engine in. I mean, you're going to put $40,000 now in the engine, and I don't even feel good about the engine that we're using. 100,000 miles from now, we're in the same boat. So, I mean, and that could be what? Well, 5 years, maybe if it lasts 5 years. And then you got a brand new engine in a used bus. So then the engine's great, but now the transmission goes out or the rear goes out or something else. It's just involved. It's more than just, we think that put the engine in the bus, man, we're great. But it's because if it was a younger fleet, yes, but an older fleet, I can't guarantee that. I don't know what. And the reason why I don't want to put an engine in that bus, the bus has been setting for a year. I don't know what they're going to find in it.
Right.
So
your process on a new bus is you put them out for bid, or do you have sole source?
No, you just call them and tell them, and they spec it out for you what we want, and yeah.
Could you contact them and reach out to them and say, hey, if the county wants to purchase a new bus, do we have to pay for it all up front, or could we pay a portion of it, or when they come in?
The FY23 bus that they purchased, the invoice came in spring of 23. So.
Yeah, no, I don't know but I'll find out what they want, what they need, and
to build a time.
Yeah. That I don't know, but I can have. I'll have that information first next week. It won't take me but a phone call.
I don't want the school system to have a problem to where buses are breaking down and they can't get the kids.
Right. Well, that helps it with next year. But what about this year?
That's what I'm saying. We may have to purchase a couple of used buses this year and plan to purchase that one new bus next year.
That's kind of what Don and I thought. Just get a couple to get us through. And these should be dependable buses. They're the good motors. They're the very dependable buses if you see the Freightliner brand is. But just make sure whatever we do in the future, we stick to one brand, a dependable brand, and keep all the parts the same.
I mean, the Freightliner bus, you're going to pay more than the international bus, but you get what you pay for. I mean, I've been working on them. The Thomas buses, which are the Freightliners, are very rarely, but now the older ones are in the shop now. So, I mean, we've gotten the best out of it, but the international buses, I've got bus 8 and bus 4. I think bus 4's got close to 80,000 miles on it. And bus 8 has just turned 50. No, that's 4. Bus 4. What's 4 have on it? Yeah.
4's got like 60.
Right. And then 4's got almost 80. So those are your trip buses. Within probably the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have 100,000 better. And we're sending them buses across the state, out of state. Realistically, and I know this is, I can sit up here and bark demands. You need two new buses a year to get caught up for the next 5 or 6 years. I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but I'm just telling you the facts. We're going to fight this. We're going to be fighting this because of the wait time on the buses. It's just now we'll take the 2 buses that are trip buses now and incorporate them as a route bus. We don't throw, we keep using them. And that'll be like a new bus to the driver that gets it. Certainly in better shape. than the ones that we have. But again, I mean, realistically, you're looking at 2 buses a year to get out of this whole 2 new buses. And you might even, and I think we get these other used buses, I think I could make do with what I have. But there's still no guarantee, but I can do my absolute best.
To be fair, whatever both we had, choose up a lost one.
Yeah.
And your question, apparently the oldest bus in our fleet, still on the road, around 2001 International.
With how many miles?
We don't even know.
I think it's full of it still has a handle, but the guy loves it.
Yeah. I mean, that's my next bus I want to get out off the road, but and he's susceptible to another bus, but right now, there's no other option. You know?
Well, I think with the way we're behind, I think we need to look at year 1 and then in the process of that, incorporate year 2 in the mix. So we're not behind that 12-month period for a bus.
And that's where I didn't mean 2 new buses. I'm talking about like the following year. Let's gear up if we could do that, and then from there on out. But that's entirely how the county wants to proceed. I'm not bargaining any demands. I'm just making suggestions.
Well, if we go by this 5-year plan, that's going to put the bus fleet way ahead. And at the end of that 5 years, you're going to have another 5-year plan coming right behind, or should be right behind it. And
there really should.
That's a good rotation on the buses.
There should be.
Yeah.
Donna, will we get the bus at this year's price? If we order it now, will we get the bus at this year's price, or will we have to pay next year's price?
No. Whatever they quote me over the phone, they give you 30 days. And then it may change. I mean, the material's going up and all that, but they'll give you.
But it locks in the price if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Yes, it won't go up, but you have 30 days to commit.
I did prorate them in this plan for average inflation over the next 5 years. So you'll see, like I'm asking for a new bus year 1, 155.5, but by year 5, I'm asking for 179, whatever, to try to keep some pace.
I hope it's not. I hope it's not like the last 5 years. Like I said, 5 years ago they were like 79,000.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to come up with at least something that would compare us and get us a reasonable amount of money instead of trying to look at the same quote. We know it's not going to be the same fiber.
No. And once you commit to a replacement plan, once we get the fleet up to specs, you don't have to buy 2 or 3 buses. You can buy a bus every year, every other year or something. I mean, but you got to rotate, like Dr. Leslie said, you got to rotate them out, though. And hopefully by that point, the buses will be in good enough shape that we could, and I know that the people that I'm talking about, Sonny Merriman, they deal in used buses. They'd be grateful to have one that we've taken care of and is running. We could drive up there and they give us something for it. You can get a little trade-in. How much? But you get something that'd be better than nothing. But international, Kingmore, that's the people that we buy international buses from. They don't have a used bus program. They don't have a trade-in bus. They just deal with new bus and repair on buses.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
We also need to get him software for one of his computers. Was that for the Cummins?
It was
Cummins
the Cummins
motors?
Yeah, I
think you can only order that with credit card.
Yeah,
and I know they were taken away. I believe I'm not sure the whole story. Or is it in the process that we can get that? No, I'm looking behind.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking for advice. But I know that's an issue that you can't read. These buses right now.
I can't communicate with any bus that has to come with.
Right. So there has not been a request. We've got to do a procurement process. There's not been a request for software. It's not in next year's budget. And I haven't answered your question about how much more money we can return this year. So if that's something that you're going to want to do, we're going to need to bid out. We're going to need to get a request, because right now I can tell you right now that wasn't planned for next year because we don't have that. And most of these companies will take a purchase order. You can give them a commitment one. I don't know this particular company. There is a credit card available for this if that's the best option, but I would prefer to do it another way if we could.
Now,
Yeah, it has, for the dollar amount, it has to be bid out.
To answer her question about my international programming, I can get billed through the bus company Kingmore. My Allison transmission and my Mercedes programs and the Thomas buses, the Freightliners, I can get through Sunny Mariner. But Cummins, and you can't, to answer your question, ma'am, there's only one person that you can get it from, Cummins. So it is.
That is different. So,
Yeah, oh, okay.
Still, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, and that is, we have at the beginning of the school year, when I didn't have it, I'm thinking back in October, late September, October, we applied for the license, we got all the paperwork, everything approved, and we're down to paying for it, and we weren't unable to pay for it. And then Mr. Harris happened to call me, and he was inquiring about the buses and all that. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, here's where I'm at." And then he told me, he said, "All right, well, I'll see what I can do." And he got the Sunny Merriman and the Kingmore stuff for me. So I'm still, again, I can't communicate with any bus, Freightliner or International, that has a Cummins engine because I need that program.
Wasn't that, we already approved that?
I weren't here during that process when that was done. So that's why my questions are here, why he's here to answer. What software usually run $1,000, $1,500, $2,000?
I think back in the beginning, I thought it was $800-900. So roughly about just if you throw that out there. But I mean, I think, and again, this is going from when last year, I think Sunny Merriman, the Freightliner is $800, $900. The Allison's program is probably right around the same line. And the Kingmore was above 1,000, but we were getting the Cummins Insight program with them. And then Cummins said, "No, we're not doing it anymore. If we want it, you got to get it directly from us."
Okay.
And I don't know why.
I thought that was a software program you were talking about a couple of months ago.
The one we did get. See, right, that's why the issue of having 3 or 4 different buses is the software,
Okay, so
3 or 4 different softwares.
And
it's what drives them crazy and drives the whole system crazy. But I know every year there's an update for these, and you have to purchase that update just like I have to do for any of my equipment. You have to buy that update. They send it to you to log into these computers and to work on.
Now to give you, once we get over the hump of getting the Cummins Insight program, my understanding is that I can get billed through Sunny Mariner from here on out. But the initial hit is going to be the credit card, unfortunately.
But the issue with that is no more than what that software program is. You send one bus to Richmond and have it scanned. That's the cost of the program itself. Well, for you to continue to scan the rest of the buses. So we're paying.
If you don't have to tow it up there to do it.
You're right. And it's a cost savings to have these programs.
And I think it's just something that through the system that we need to help you work out. Yeah. We can make sure this process is done and familiarize you with this process. Nobody's to blame. It's just, I want to bring it up so we can get that for you and work you through the process. We know what's going on.
Without communicating with the buses, I'm just guessing, and I don't like it. Anyhow, the main thing that I use the computer for is for the DPF filters, which is the exhaust filtration thing. That's the biggest thing that jams all these buses up. And if you don't keep them cleaned out, they call it a regeneration process. If you don't do that, the bus is going to be, you got to have to tow it and tow it. And if I can't communicate, I have no idea.
Well,
I can't fix everything on them, but I can take care of the small stuff and do what I can. Ronnie and I do what I can.
Good.
Work through Dr. Leslie on the process that you need to go through to get the financing straight. And
operating budget, they have to pull their operating budget. All they have to do is figure out where that money is, get a bid, purchase order, we're up and running.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I think so. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So our director to be saying about budgetary.
Thank you for this.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Very well.
Well, you got us now.
Okay, gentlemen, we got any more discussion on the buses? You want to think on them a little bit and we'll talk on it later?
Talk on it now.
Talk on it now?
Let's talk on it now.
All right, Mr. Fisher, what's on your mind?
I like the procedure where she had with one bus, one new bus, and one used one.
Uh-huh.
Getting a new bus would put a second bus out of commission that they could use for extra or breakdowns.
Okay.
And
But remember now, you're not going to get that new bus for a year.
it's right. That's why I want to use them.
So that's why my thought is maybe 2 used ones. Can do it. And then that still puts one of the old buses out, like the 2001, that gets that out of the system too. That's got.
We're going to start putting money up now for the new bus, right?
Well, the issue we face it now, we got to get Mr. Tadlock's opinion on this too, is the used buses are going to come up, they're going to be sold quick.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to decide on that. The new bus, he can get a quote on it, and he can sign a contract on it, and he don't have to pay for that until it comes in.
But we want to start putting money aside.
Yes. So, yes.
Yeah, I'm for it. I'd go along with 2 buses in a heartbeat, 2 used ones in a heartbeat, because I think they're in desperate need. The bus program has gone behind. It needs to be built back up.
The beauty of this process, let's say next year, we could trade one of these buses in once we get the new one and still get pretty much the same price for it. Put it back out on auction and have it sold or done. So in my thoughts, I'm scared to leave them with just one extra bus. And that's what we're doing if we don't get 2 of them, it seems to me.
Mr. Williams, what you think?
Well, I trust Mr. Brown's opinion, and if he was content with us moving forward this year with purchasing 2 youth buses, then that's the direction we should go, with the anticipation of purchasing a new bus next year.
And start that process now.
Start that process now.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Long?
Yeah, I'm waiting. Get 2 used buses. Then start the process to get the new one.
Okay.
Say for input.
Yes, ma'am.
So at last week's meeting, you had asked for if there was going to be any additional revenue that we knew would be returned this year. I went through the books, and yes, right now there's another probably 120 to 130 that has already been identified. I'll be coming to the board probably in 2 weeks once I get all the finals figure to do a transfer. So based on these numbers that Dr. Leslie has, if you did 2, Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 used buses and 1 new, you'd need about 210, right? So doing the math, we've got the 322 that's already in play, right? So we've got 126K that's already in the school CIP fund. The 322, that is what's being worked on for the playground, the 3 options for the playground, plus the other 120 that we already know will be eligible for return. I'm not saying that all needs to go to the school, but if you look at what's in play, that's money that would not add to next year's budget bottom line. So I don't know that will factor into the consideration for everything you're doing, but it would go a long way towards the 1 new and 2 used if those prices are still accurate.
Again, those used buses, they're going to have balance, not going to be budget money. You've done what we can based on going further. Yeah. But if you got a bus that has low mileage that's used, it could be higher.
Mr. Tadlock, you got anything to add on that?
No, I was just going to say that one of the discussion items that we had coming up, and you first asked me, was part of that included that bus with the CIP request. So Dr. Vika answered that question.
Mr. Bates?
So the 126 that everybody keeps mentioning was transferred by the board to the school CIP earmarked for the playground. So that's kind of being taken out of play or reallocated by the board to be for buses.
That's going to stay with the playground.
Yeah.
Just want to make that clear. And also,
we're not taking anything from the playground. We're just trying to. That 126, I think, has had everybody confused. the last week or so. But no, that's staying with the playground.
And the other point I want to point out is at next week's regular board meeting, we are having the CIP public hearing, and buses are part of the school. All of that is part of that public hearing as well. Just something else to be thinking about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can we go through the playground and listen to that concern, and then we make a judgment afterward which way we want to go and hear that information, so we have the full package of what we need to hear tonight, and then we'll come back and address this school bus issue. That works for y'all? I think
okay, but let's keep in mind that right now we're leaning toward 2 used buses and a new one, and we're going to have playground discussion, then we'll reevaluate.
And you also got to look at this year's school bus next year might not come into the next year's budget.
That's what
we got to deal with on that too. That could be a year. It might not even be in this year's upcoming budget, depending on how soon they get it to us.
That's right.
So that could be 2028. That's right. Budget item it might go to.
Yep. Okay. Let's move on to the playground.
Yes, sir. The next item we do have is continued discussion from last week of the NES playground funding. And I believe the gentleman with, is he online as well? Okay, so I don't know if.
Yes, Joe, playground specialist. I'm here if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent.
So
There for any other.
So I know Dr. Pika had listed several options and provided that information to you. So we've got that. I don't know what questions the board may have regarding that document and or any questions for the gentleman online.
All right. And I think one of the questions we had, and it may have just gotten answered, was that $126,000. Okay, so what's confused some of us is, some things were in the school budget and it was taken out and put back on the county side. So is it anything left on the school side as far as what Dr. Leslie had planned? And she's shaking her head no. So all of that's been taken out. So it's the 126 that's still earmarked for the playground, correct?
Yes, let me get that actual.
All right, so we actually have a starting balance of $126,000 for the playground.
It's 125,690.33 is the actual balance.
125,693. 690.33.
125,690.33.
Okay. Now that clear up things because
yes, from last week they cleared it up. Okay.
And so then to build on that, one of the options was split the 322, and you had made a discussion to put 200 for the playground. And this is just hypothetical, right? 200 for the playground and then the remaining 122 for something else. So that would bring the balance, if you did that, that would bring the balance for the playground to 326.90.33. So then you would have the 122 plus this new 120 to 130 that is going to be returned for other uses in the county or CIP, your choice. And so last week, if I recall, because I was on the phone, last week, one of the questions was, what would you get with respect to the playground for the 326? I think that's the recap. Okay.
So we have quotes for 200, which would be half of the playground, about 4,000. And then a quote for the full, which is, I've forgotten, but you have it. I sent them over for something. So that's where Joe is here to help us out.
yes. And I guess the question for him would be is, okay, if he invested $200,000 in the playground, how far would that get us and what equipment would be included?
I think the biggest thing to look at is who we need to serve. All of our playground designs will meet ADA, ADA accessibility standards, ASTM and CPSC, so all the very important things for playground-related standards and guidelines, including the law for ADA. But if we want to make it more accessible to any wheelchair users or mobility device users, we try to include some sort of unitary surfacing like a pour-in-place or bonded rubber, which we have in the current plan in that 440 range. We could get a lot of equipment in that $300,000 mark. It's just a matter of maybe how much accessible surfacing we add. And we can do mixed surfacing. I know there were questions in my previous meetings about maintenance and upkeep of a wood fiber, which is the most economical safety surfacing. And that's a question I can't answer for you in terms of who's going to manage or replenish that on an annual basis. That is the nice thing about port in place. You do pay for it more up front, but there's a little bit less in the day-to-day maintenance of that item. That being said, we can certainly fill out, like my current site plan is about almost 9,500 square feet, which is less than the current area that's there, but it does take up the vast majority of the space. And that's a pretty large playground. We can do more, we can do a little less. We can certainly fill that with a lot of equipment and, provide enough capacity for the school. This current plan, not counting any free space, just equipment, is user capacity of 135 children at a time. We can increase that, decrease that. I can certainly scale this one way or the other to and take user capacity into account to meet any budget that's required.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Harris, you got any questions?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up the quote and I can't find it on my emails right now of what you sent me. My apologies. But looking back in the quote, I know it was like $11,000 to clean up the facility we have there now. And am I correct on that? Do you have that in front of you, sir?
Yes, that's right. It's about $10,550 at the moment, and that includes removing and disposing of any existing equipment. It also includes cutting out existing mulch and decomposed materials to prep for the new surfacing. We would leave that on site in an approved location, of course. It's great compost. It can be used any way you like to, and it's very expensive to actually dispose of. Prepping for new stone, a little bit of grading along that way.
All right, I know 57 stones you had in there for $35,000. Do you know how many yards of stone that is? Tons?
Or how many tons?
Yeah,
sure.
That is.
I do. Hang on one second. And we only need the 57 drainage stone for the playground surfacing if we're doing the port-in-place rubber. That's our subbase. We need to have a hard compacted subbase. Let's see here. So for the playground surfacing, we're looking at about 100 tons. For drainage, I've got an additional 12 by 12 inch French drain along that concrete curb at 118 linear feet. So there's some added stone in there for that. And 430 linear feet of perforated drain pipe, trench and stone. And that's to feed that French drain as well. If we did the plan right now is to pour most of the port in place goes right up against that concrete curb. At an event, you have more water than the French drain can handle. It would just spill out, meet the asphalt, and run to your existing on-site drainage there at that asphalt area. I had entertained cutting through the block there or passing something underneath, but I just feel that it's not the best way. I think it looks a little bit odd, a little bit more to maintain. So having the kind of French drain is probably the best solution. And with some regrading, with those drain lines, I think it solves a lot of the problems that are on site now.
All right, one other question I have for you.
Sure.
You've obviously been to the site. You've seen this site.
Yep.
Would it save us any to move it to another site that we don't have drainage issues on?
Certainly, if you have an area that's already sloped in a good direction to relieve standing water, then for sure we can cut out the drainage. I don't think a lot of my playgrounds don't have drainage. If there is good, slope on site, 1 or 2% is more than adequate and meets the equipment standards. So you could move it. The stone for underneath the pour in place surfacing would still be required depending on if we're using that material or not. But I have a line item here for drainage, which is all in all with the French drain and the perforated drain pipe and stone, we are about 15,000, 14,500. We could remove that, of course, if it wasn't in this space.
Okay, thank you.
You got any more questions?
Your recommendation, you've seen the site. Would it be better for us to move it? I worry about continued water issues. But
Right.
issues with French drains stopping up before and things happen after a few years, that concerns me. Just your thoughts. I would love to hear them.
That is fair question. I think that having the port in place allows for some mitigation of that, as there is the padding that is underneath the poured rubber, which meets the impact attenuation standards for the equipment, has a filter fabric involved with it. That does help keep the stone clean to anything that would pass through. I think doing more of the footprint in poured rubber helps. We also have that 4-inch stone layer, which is going to eat some of the water as well. You do have drainage. I think it's just a matter of getting it out of the playground and onto the asphalt. I do think that a little regrading here, getting rid of some of the other material that's there, and having a mixture of poured in place and these drains would be adequate for the space. I know there's, I have actually pictures here in my file from an alternate location, maybe by where the bus and parking loop is. It looks like there's when I was last there, a gazebo and some benches back in that space. That could be an alternate space as well, if you prefer. I think the only consideration to make is, what do you do with the old playground area?
What is the life expectancy of this playground to surface and all?
So the playground equipment itself, I usually put life expectancies to the length of the majority of the warranties on the equipment. Playworld equipment, which is one of the manufacturers we represent, and I would say the vast bulk of the equipment we've designed with for this one, has a 15-year warranty on the rotomolded plastic. So that's the slides, a lot of the climbers and things like that. The steel and platform decks and things would have a 20 to limited lifetime. So in my professional opinion, 15 to 20 years for an elementary school is the best case scenario for a lot of equipment. I certainly see it go longer than that, especially if well maintained. It just becomes more of a question of your cost of maintenance versus replacement. In terms of surfacing, a poured in place or a bonded rubber surfacing, the surfacing we presented here is our rainbow bonded rubber. We give a 7-year warranty for that product. I would expect if it's well maintained, to go into the 10 or 12-year lifespan, possibly a little bit more, depending on how often we kind of do a seal maintenance coat on there. And then the nice thing about having a mixed footprint is that if you're adding mulch over top of that as it degrades, you're still keeping up with safety standards. You could push that a little bit further. It wouldn't look as nice as on day one, but it would certainly be functional well into the life of the playground. So, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Long, you got any questions?
Oh, not. Dr. Leslie, how many students would be involved on the playground at one time?
How many children are on the playground at one time?
I can't answer that question off the top of my head, but they will be staggering. I mean, we have to stagger for the industry stuff.
That's what I thought.
Out there. Yeah. So there's about 500 total in the school, and that's PK through 5. So those play times would be staggered.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
for the
what I
occupancy. Mm-hmm.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Leslie, when is that playground used other than during school hours?
I can't answer that question. I honestly do not know. I know in other places that I've lived, the playgrounds are used on the weekends and after hours. I personally have not seen students down there at that time, but
It is open to the public.
say it again.
It is open to the public on weekends. I mean, it's not locked up or anything.
That's a really good question that I don't have an answer to. There are some considerations with having it open to look into with our insurance, because of course, if we have it open to the public on private school, on school property, which is owned by the county, and we have it open during that time, it's not being monitored. If somebody's injured, we would have to look into all of that. I don't know. Right now, it's not posted what the hours are. So I can't answer that, but that is a piece that I have looked at because, to be clear, some of that precluded us from some of the possible grants that we could look at. But even still, since it's not strictly community, we were precluded from applying for a lot of them because it is public school. I don't know if I answered your question, but there's a lot of pieces to that.
Reason I asked my question, so I would be concerned about moving the location of the playground because I go to a lot of ball games up there. And when ball games are being played, parents have one kid on the field, they have a younger sibling of that playing child on the playground. And they can keep an eye on the child on the playground while they're watching their older children play ball.
Sure. And I do understand putting the playground behind the school. It certainly makes sense in a lot of ways. My only concern is, like I said, I understand it's a recharge area. I don't know that for sure, but I do know a lot about the water table. So I do know that we'd have to have it surveyed. We'd have to have it checked out. There would be some other steps involved. And I'm not saying that, again, precludes us from doing that, but I do think it does change the process.
And my concern would be if the insurance covers that kid that's playing while their parents in the game.
Well, if they're at a school-sponsored activity, then probably it would. If there's a school game going on, and we want to call that a school-sponsored activity, and there's a kiddo on the playground. Other than, I know the place that I moved from, sometimes we would get kids like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, we'd pick up on our playground equipment. And so, we would have to look into all of those ins and outs before we made a definitive statement. That's what I'm going to say. I wouldn't be prepared to make a definitive statement about that today.
Joe, how long will this process take and how soon can y'all have it done?
Just in that too. He's ready for this one.
Yeah, it's we can get right on it. Our lead times are kind of better than ever after the last couple of years where they weren't so much. We're still scheduling projects for this summer. So I think that there is certainly a chance that we could if we could move quick enough into ordering equipment, getting this installed before your new school year, if not in the very early beginnings of that, which not for nothing is always really cool to see as a student. You get to see the playground go up. I know before I got involved in this, I just thought they came out of the ground by themselves. So that being said, this year for sure, and within the summer time frame is realistic. And I would also add on the last topic too, obviously more question for insurance, but any playgrounds in the public space is generally considered a public playground unless it's in someone's backyard. And I would almost expect, even with signage, to have some users on the playground that maybe shouldn't be. The best way to mitigate any backlash or issues for you all is to make sure that playground is up to the safety standards and compliant.
Bishop, you got your question?
I'm ready to get moving. We've been procrastinating on this for too long.
Any more questions, Mr. Wade? Mr. Long, any more questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Mr. Harris?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
All right. Clarification, something. I know we need to get moving on this, but we got a CIP hearing next week. Correct? So before we should make any motions to approve anything, we should have a hearing on the CIP project before we Is that the proper procedure?
Currently, that project was included in the CIP process.
Okay.
And I believe that was included in the public hearing advertisement. If I'm correct on that.
Yes, it was an ad.
Okay.
It's in April.
Okay, so we got clarification on that 125,690.33. So that's there. Mr. Williams, I see you working some numbers. What's on your mind?
Well, we've got $322,000 that wasn't earmarked, right? And seems to me we can determine how much of that we're willing to put towards the playground at this point.
Along with the 126.
Along with the 126.
There's one thing, and I'm going to get back to what you said a while ago. It scares me to put it back in the same spot. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on us. We know there's a drainage issue there. I want to be sure that waters can get out of there. And I know drain tile is great. The filter screens, whatever, I've seen it clogged. That worries me. And maybe we can't. Maybe that's our only option. But it scares me to put it back in the same location. Yeah. But we might not be able to, too. So, and I don't want to delay this project. That's the last thing I want to do.
I think
we're putting $400,000 in something that's going to last 15 years. We want to make sure it's done right.
What's your thinking, Dr. Leslie? What's your thinking?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
What's your thinking on moving it?
Okay. Based on, so we're going to need to get somebody to come in and do survey, calendar through survey, land assessment, et cetera. Based on what I anticipate the dollar value that to be, that would have to go out the bid. Because of the, I'm assuming it's going to be over 2,500 for somebody to come out and do the survey on that. So we would have to put that out for a procurement bid based on school board policies. Depending on the dollar amount of what it might be, it may have to go out for a formal bid. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying from the timeline, what we're looking at, we would need to carve out the money to do the bid. We would need to carve out the time to do the bid, get that assessment back. I'm assuming it won't take long, but you're looking at least probably at 2 months, only because you have to throw an ad out depending on the dollar amount based on the state code, certain amount of time. That's all.
Question.
Well, what I'm saying with this, we could, though, agree in terms to build this and have this person ready to roll. And in the process, look at changing this place also. It would change some figures on the final number. But, while he's waiting to come here this summer, we have time to look at this and say, okay, is this a better place to put it? If not, we stay where it is. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yes, but so we have to place our order by May to try to get it in by the start of the school year. So I'm not saying that we can't do that, but I don't think that we're going to be able to get a survey complete. They'll have to give us a new estimate on that area there. It will slow it down is the easy answer. The other thing that we will then have to consider is that playground equipment has to come down. That's there now. And we have to do something to mitigate that site because, of course, holes are buried. We can't have, there's, metal in the ground. So there is potentially, we have to mitigate that as well.
And you're still going to have a drainage problem if you don't.
That's my question.
Drain tile.
What do you know about the drainage problem from people that you've talked to that's been there for years and years? How much of a drainage problem has been there?
So it pools before 1 to 7, but this is what I was told.
Okay.
Understand. It'll pool from 1 to several days after a big rain.
Mm-hmm.
The understanding is that the PIP would mitigate that. The PIP is that port in place that he was talking about.
That's what we were talking. He was telling us before.
Because it does percolate. My understanding also is because they've continued to cover it with the wood fiber that it's basically just like a big sponge down there and the water doesn't have anywhere to go. Whereas Joe is also talking about in his plan, he has a way to redirect the water, any of the runoff that you would get. So you will get minimal runoff with the PIP. It's not all of it's going to percolate, but it does percolate. It's not just like concrete.
Yeah.
So I'm not a drainage expert, but I have talked to Joe about it. I mean, he's the expert. He felt comfortable with it. That's the extent, honestly, of my knowledge. But I do understand that it floods out, and I've seen photos of it, and it's not good.
Basically, if I understand it right, the 6 inches of stone is where your storage of water is going to be. That's going to slowly filter into your drain, if I'm not mistaken. And
that's what I understood from what he was saying as well.
And directs it to your drain tile. If you have a pouring drain, it will take 24 hours, 2 days, probably get the water out of there. But will kids be on that playground anyway? I don't know at that time of times.
I'm sure. I mean, I don't know. My kids like mud puddles.
Teachers really.
I'm sorry, parents. We'll keep them out of the mud puddles.
Well,
no, I'm not suggesting we have a flooded play area, but I mean, yeah, certainly you're going to get some standing water at some time.
Well, if you go to behind the school and you go to the left rear of the school and you decide to put it back out, you're going to eliminate a practice field, a ball field. And also back there, it's very wet because there are times that they can't use that field. And anything to the right behind the school, we got to stay away from that because we had issues back out of the drain fields and with DEQ, and we don't need any problems.
That's what I was going to bring up too. We just put in the mass drain field towards the rear of the building there. Yeah. Something else to keep in mind too is earlier on we had drainage issues with going across the road, and we just spent quite a bit of money to resolve that issue. So whatever we do there, we need to make sure that it's going off site in a slow manner and then being able to drain properly so we don't create any more issues on things that we've tried to correct already.
And I got one other concern is, I understand the concerns of wanting to move the playground and all, but when we start moving things on school property, you got to get the weigh in on the school board as well. I mean, the school board is the governing body for the schools, not us. I know we want to spend money wisely and make sure it is done correctly, but we just need to keep that in mind also.
Is there any more of a security problem by having it around back? You won't be able to see it from the front, correct? You won't be able to see who's back there?
You're right.
Wouldn't it be more secure in front where it is as far as the safety of the children or whoever might be there?
You're near a driveway. It's the only issue I would say where you are now. You're where people can drive in and drive out. That's the only hazard I see where it is now.
I think if we're taking in consideration of maybe people using this on a weekend, I'd much rather have people out front of the school, on the side of the school, where they can be seen and monitored by the neighbors and someone just driving down the road.
Exactly.
Than have them behind the school. I think we better stop trying to fight that battle and let it stay where it is and let these gentlemen come in and do the grading and the drainage on it and go from there, is my opinion.
If I could interrupt, I'm still here. I just wanted to point out that two things on the drainage. I do think that grading the existing decomposing mulch out of the footprint, which is in our plan already, adding the drain lines, the subbase of 6 inches for the stone under the rubber, as well as the French drain by that existing concrete curb, mitigates a lot of the drainage issues that you see there now. I think a lot of it is caused by the compaction of old material with nowhere for it to escape. We could also consider saw cutting some joints into that curb and allowing some of the water, if it does fill, to escape onto the asphalt. That would not cost very much. If anything, I might not have to add anything to this proposal. And then on a secondary note, just in case it did move, as long as we had adequate square footage with our plan, even if you purchase this tomorrow, we could make that change at any time you wanted to.
What was your numbers, Mr. Williams? What you thinking on your number? You got off track there for me.
Well, we had talked about appropriating $200,000 additional dollars to the 126 that we already have earmarked.
Right, because it was in question where that 126 is. Now we know where it's at.
And I think we've had conversations where there's potential for some other money coming at this project. We certainly don't want to fund it fully at this point, knowing that we have potential for those other funding options. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cost of the playground is $480,000. Is that right?
447? Is that
47?
I think it's
447.
yeah. I think it's 42. If we might as well say 448.
If we were to appropriate another $200,000 and included the 126 that we already had earmarked, we would be about $121,000 shy of the total cost of the project. That's right.
Yes, I think you're right.
And they had phase one in here was 226, 227. Two also, there's two different bids in here for that.
Yeah, so we had a little big over in that proposal, but that was for half.
Yeah, okay.
And we can certainly value engineer the equipment and the design to meet a different budget.
Yeah, Joe's been, when I asked for that final quote, I mean, I gave him a ballpark. Okay, because I know in the past the quotes have come in a bit higher. We work with this with the maximum nurse.
Okay.
He's been wonderful.
Do you get those numbers, Mr. Tadlock?
As far as the 200 and the 126,
Yes.
for a total of roughly 326, it's not exact because it's 125 something.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess what I'd like to know on that is, looking into the rest of the budget and the CIP, is that something we could handle?
Well, as far as the CIP goes, of course, we've got the public hearing next week. As far as the fiscal year 27 budget itself, we removed the school portion of that CIP because of the other identified funding options that were discussed last week. So that is not currently, as we will show later on, that's not currently, those CIP funds are not identified in fiscal year 27 budget.
Okay.
Because they've been identified in other areas.
All right.
Well, you fooling around with a number around 300, 320, right, Mr. Williams? I don't know how to put this as they say around. Do we want to see what can be done with that amount of money?
Well, what would we not have with what would our playground be lacking if we were able to come up with $320,000 towards it at this point?
I think the best way to reduce to meet that budget would be to curb in some of the poured in place rubber that I have on here. I could reduce the square footage for that. We could always reduce overall square footage as well, which always saves on surfacing and space. We can do some value engineering on equipment. I have a large spatial net climber that's there. We can provide an alternate piece of equipment that would still have the same user capacity and play value, would just be maybe a different experience and a different equipment. So really just making those changes. Same thing with, there's a Zoom Tracks on there, which is a accessible seat tracks, kind of like not a zip line, but a track slide. We could look at a different piece of equipment there and really just make, those valued engineered choices to bring down the overall cost.
but you might bring down those costs, but I want to make sure that you don't bring down the safety. That's very important.
Absolutely not. Yep, I completely agree. And we would never sacrifice on safety. All of our equipment, like I said, will meet ASTM and CPSC standards. No matter what we design with, all of our manufacturers are IPMA certified. The founder of our company is an CPSI instructor for National Recreation and Park Association. I teach a playground maintenance and safety course. So I can promise you that we will design a space that is safe and meets those same warranties and life expectancies that I would expect to have out of any of my playgrounds. In addition, Playground Specialist takes that one step further, where we offer a lifetime installation warranty. So we'll come back and replace any items under warranty at no cost to you all. And if there's ever an installation issue, such as a loose foot or anything, you'll never have to worry about that either. We'll come back for free for that as well.
All right. Thank you.
Could you provide us, using that number, the $320,000, could you provide us a site drawing with the equipment, showing the equipment and how it would be arranged, and what type of equipment it would be?
Absolutely.
Okay. If you could get that to Dr. Leslie, she could get it to us. I would appreciate that. That would give us something.
That would give us an idea, but also in the future, 2 years from now, we want to add on to it. We'd still be able to do that, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I think even with the current plan and design, it's very much an open space. If you're standing with your school to your back and looking at the playground, I'm focused on filling equipment to the left and front where the sidewalk access is, trying to take that back to the fence line next to the ball fields, and to the right would be an easy addition in future phases, no matter what we do.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Okay. Y'all ready to move on to the next topic? Thank you, sir, for calling in, and we will appreciate that information when you can get it to Dr. Leslie, because we'd like to take a look at it.
Absolutely. We'll get right on it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Next item we have for discussion is regarding the school budget on the appropriation options. Dr. Pica was discussing this at the last meeting we had, and the complications that arise around the quarterly appropriations. She did provide a paper listing out several options there, and the board did ask for some additional information, and she had provided that additional information to the board.
Dr. Leslie. I would like for you to congratulate the teachers and all who work in the system. This is a very important month, right?
It really is. And actually, I'm running out because we have a retirement dinner and we're celebrating our Teacher of the Year, and I'm going to give the closing.
Okay.
So I will absolutely send that along to our teaching staff. Yeah.
I would like to thank them. Right?
I will make sure to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologize.
Thank you.
Okay. No, that's no problem. So I know Dr. Pica had provided some additional information for you all. I don't know if you have any specific questions related to that document or questions in general.
Can I ask you a question? All right, I'm asking you to say. As I stated here, and I think you heard me, I worry about going through the whole year process and being able to move to that process right now. I like the 2 times a year process every 6 months. My question is to you, if something happens, let's say to you or somebody important in this situation, and do you feel there's a staff there that's going to be able to say, take this and be able to use that 1 year and run with it and feel comfortable with option 3? You follow what I'm saying?
I would feel, so if something happens,
that's my concern. If there's nobody there that
option 3 is better than option 2, and here's why.
Okay.
Option 3 involves what I call the mandatory accounts, pay benefits. They're going to be on autopilot, right? They're going to be okay. The accounts that will be more at risk are those that are what I call the discretionary accounts. And we're changing the process of how those work starting in July. With option 3, what's going to happen is at the beginning of in July, we're going to analyze all the major expenses that need to be encumbered, and we're going to hold those back. So we're going to say for the Chesapeake Bay Governor's School, this is a $110,000 bill. That means we're going to take $110,000 out of that account so no one can see it. It will be reserved. So when the bill comes in, the accounts payable person will know the money's there. We will also be doing that with some contracts that we know are coming up. And we're going to be, I don't know what the right term is, holding back some of the money out of accounts. So even if you give the finance team, if you appropriate the full year amount, that amount will not show up in the finance system. What will show up is what we put in the finance system. In order to do that, I then have to program everything that's going to go through the rest of the year and in which quarter to put it. I plan on doing all that in July. If we go with option 2 and you're splitting it, there's analysis that needs to happen. We could still do all of these steps we just did, but then if you have to advance appropriate, you have to make sure that you've analyzed for the second half of the year so that you don't deposit those monies again, which actually happened this year. There were times when the infamous one is the tech account. When UHY was here, they did an advance appropriation for 200 and some odd thousand, and it never got taken out the rest of the year. So when I got to the fourth quarter, I had to short that account by over $150,000 because it wasn't accounted for. So the risk from my perspective as the finance facilitator and a busybody citizen, the risk is greater for option 2 because if for some reason, and I think it's always super risky to have one point of failure. If for some reason this one point of failure fails, who's going to pick up the controls to make sure that you don't over appropriate?
Any more questions, Mr. Harris? Oh, sorry. I'm good.
So there are more controls in place, in your opinion, in option 3?
I feel there are. We can apply the same controls in option 2. The risk you have in option 2 is if I walk out the door, who picks it up? I don't think from the chair I sit in, and I'm not thinking about walking out the door, just for clarification. But I always think that one point of failure is a risk. And we do not yet have within the county, this isn't just about the schools, we do not yet have within the county an established process that will allow for the controls we need for the funding and the multi-times appropriation. So for example, turn off your ears, Mary. For example, if we had better technology capabilities, you could do the calculations in an automated fashion and I wouldn't have to manually on a spreadsheet figure out how much money goes in each account. So that's a risk because right now it's kind of something that I'm working on. So I worry about the extra work associated with that. And the other piece that we're putting, so what I did was there are certain steps on the front chart, those have to take place regardless of which option we use. And I've already talked with Dr. Leslie. We're going to have meetings starting in June with each division director because we're going to be managing the budgets differently next year than we're managing it now. By the way, Mr. Fisher, I want to let you know that we are now current on the electric bill. Thanks to Kellen and his hard work, we paid the electric bill this week.
First time in a long.
It's current.
Amen.
So I was excited about that. So the controls that we need to make sure that the funds are appropriately spent and monitored aren't in place yet within the county level. And I worry about doing the twice a year. I was a huge advocate of the quarterly because I think of the controls it put in place. At this point, we don't have the processes in place to make sure we're not over appropriating. And that's a risk because on the county side, we don't have it either. What happens is I say, here's what we need, right? We had to, how many hours did we have to spend around that table? And that was, I already had to do a ton of work to get to that point. And we had a disagreement about not a disagreement, but there were different numbers coming up in terms of what we thought we were supposed to have and what we got.
It's because so many advances had been done on those quarterly appropriations when UHY was here. And it was short in the category that it needed to be in. So when that happened, they asked for the advance appropriations through the board as the process, but they can get lost in that process if some reason somebody comes in after Karen and not know that that process was done in advance, if it's quarterly.
There is another option. Sorry, just thinking out loud. I don't want to throw this one at you without paper, but I'm gonna. Another option is you appropriate it in full and you direct the county finance team, right? Because remember, the county's controlling the finances now, not the school. You direct the county finance team to only do the deposits for the first half of the year. Now, what that does is we still put all the controls in place that we encumber certain funds. We then have to come back, the county finance team has to come back and say, this is what we appropriated, this is what the spend rate is. You're not going to want to know by line, but you're going to want to know in general. And what we would then, you could put in your appropriation motion that before the next round of deposits is done, it requires a vote by the board or a report. What I'm looking for is enough flexibility to know that if a major, let's say we get, for argument's sake, let's say the bus people all of a sudden decide that they can give us a bus. That's clearly not going to be in the first half of the year's budget because it wasn't planned for in that manner. What we'd have to do is come back and say, we'd like that money moved from that quarter to this quarter. So you can establish, this would be a brand new process that we could put in place where you appropriate annually, but you don't allow the school to deposit more than half without coming to the board for permission. It's new, but we can write something to make it work. We can absolutely do that.
You got anything else?
Karen, what do you suggest?
I like the new option. From a work,
And you defend it how?
I defend it how? I know personally what has to be done for option 2. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think I can get all that work done based on the change in circumstances by July 1. I don't think it can be done. I can try, but with everything else going on, I don't think that's possible. So the annual appropriation would be, of the 3 that are here, the annual appropriation is going to be the least amount of work for the finance team and frankly for me.
Staying within categories.
Staying within, I'm sorry?
Within the 7 categories.
Oh, absolutely. I would never recommend getting rid of it. That's required by, there's a section of the Virginia Code that requires that. Do not, make sure it's in categories.
Okay.
And do not give, there is no option for the school board or anybody else to approve movement between categories. By law, that has to be you. So do not move it out of categories. Please.
Okay. Do we got anything? Mr. Long? Mr. Harris?
No, just thank you for answering my question.
Okay. Any further discussion? We've had to fund the schools this year. I know why we went with the quarterly. We didn't at the time. That was the right decision. I am fine doing it annually. Appropriation, as long as we got the control in place in the end categories. I was leaning more toward twice a year, but we got to take in consideration the finance staff. Are we going to bog them down in unnecessary steps?
And that's why I asked.
And are we going to have a smoother process this year where we we get things done a little more efficiently.
She answered one of my concerns with her last suggestion, with the deposits being done like that. Because I don't know if this county's ready to say, okay, 1 year, woohoo, we can put the money back into the pot. But being able to do that by holding back those, I think that is a really good idea. And I like that a lot. Way to think on your feet.
And we still got time. This is all a process of how we're going to approve the school budget. So we're having a lot of good discussion on it this year to make it flow.
You're right up, like.
So for this new option that we just thought of, would y'all want a step-by-step or option proposal with pros and cons? Okay, done.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next item.
Next item we have is related to the Stantec change order proposal for the school well. And Mr. Hardcastle's here this evening.
Right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. So I guess first we could probably start with just answering any questions that you guys may have about this. That's probably the best place to start. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at it? It's pretty standard. All they're doing is they're going to take the documents that I provide them from DEQ. The day that I got the proposal from them and I saw what documents are needed to be able to finish their proposal, to be able to finish their permit for us, I went and I talked to DEQ. I said, hey, what exactly do you guys have that I can request? This is what they're asking for. Requested all of it. I already have all the documents on hand, ready to send to them. And mainly, because of this new permit that the DEQ is asking for, it's not necessarily the same exact permit that we applied for 9 years ago. This new permit has something called a water and conservation management plan. So that's a little bit different. That's something that's a little bit out of my range, and it's a little bit out of the rest of the maintenance department's range as well when it comes to completing something like that. There's also a water feasibility analysis. There's also alternative water source plan as well. And I think Stantec's ability to be able to, in the way that they've done this exact type of permit for, I think they did it for Haynesville Correctional Facility. They also did it for Aqua, for them to have their own groundwater withdrawal permit as well. So they've done certain things like this in the past. They're the ones who did our demand analysis to be able to move forward with the interconnection project that we're working on now. And they also came in $10,000 under the initial amount that we asked for them to do that demand analysis. So that's why they actually call this a change order, because their plan was to, and it's not necessarily how we would do it on our end, but the way that they're thinking about it is you could roll that in to the price that they're asking for now. And I do need to also say that their proposal that they have for us does not include the permit fee, the permit application fee. So that $9,000 is also going to have to still come out as well. And that's something that I would also need approval from you guys for as well. So what we would be looking at now, if we were to go with the approval here, they're asking for $25,320. We just paid them $12,290. The permit application fee is $9,000, and then we also paid about $2,900 for Capital City Services to come out and actually do the utility line location services that they provided. So that puts us. I did the calculations, but I didn't write it down. But based on what we started with, and can I actually ask for an exact number, because I haven't asked that question yet? What was the number that we started with in this account? I've been trying to not spend as much as I possibly can here, but
so originally there was 110,000 that was done through CIP towards the school well. We have for Stantec, we had originally approved 22,632, of which we have paid 29038, leaving 1034162 already approved for Stan Tech. We have also paid 2916 for capital services, leaving what's left now that has not been earmarked, whether paid or approved or appropriated, is 84,452 remaining.
So we would need about 15 to go ahead and actually get this proposal. Because that's a little bit new to me. I didn't know. I thought I had to come in and ask for the full 25, right? If I only have to ask for the 15, if that 12, that 10 that they came in under at, if that's still approved and we only have to ask for this 15, then that's what I would like to ask for tonight. If I have to re-ask for the 25, I would like to ask for that. But that's where we are now, because this approval is going to give them at least 3 to 4 weeks to be able to get that permit application in. They would be working pretty much every day on this, but like I said, I've already gotten the documents that they need from us to be able to get started. And I've already talked to Dr. Leslie, and I've also been in contact with Steve over there. And we would actually have this sent over to him in the morning. They would start working on it in the morning tomorrow. And that should give them enough time to get it knocked out. Like I said, at the last time I spoke to you guys too, as long as this permit gets in on June 3rd, if we are still working on the well interconnection project, we still have time to do it. They just need that permit in on June 3rd.
Mr. Hardcastle, I believe in their proposal, they mentioned the 10,341.62. They rounded up to 10,342 in their proposal as money that was already available to the project. So I'm not sure how it gets factored in past that, but they do mention that amount. But that amount, again, had been approved by the board, but not appropriated because we were appropriating as we got the invoices in.
Okay. All right. I don't have a problem moving forward with it, but one thing I'd like to see for the records is the exact number. I don't have a problem approving it, him some funds tonight to move forward. We got to move forward with this.
Right.
But I'd like to have the exact numbers for record.
Well, the exact numbers you said was 25,320.
But then we were down to 15 and
12,290.
Okay.
Correct? Do them already. Is that what you said?
Yes, 12,290.
12,290.38 has been paid to Stan Tech in 2009-16 has been paid to capital services by the county through CIP. I think there was a little bit extra that the school was able to pay for some change order on that as well.
So 12,290.38.
Okay, so that's the correct number.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's not the number that we would actually be asking for tonight. That would, what I think is.
That's the number we paid already.
Yes, that's the number we paid already.
So do you have that number, what it would be? Can you give us that number, what we would need to?
The amount that is the amount that was already approved that would be left over from the overage from the amount that we didn't have to pay for that first invoice. And then we could subtract that from the 25,320 that they're asking for. That would be the amount that I would be asking for approval for tonight.
So if what you're asking for, the total for that was 25,320, and you take the 12,290.38 that we've already paid Stan Tech, the remaining balance there would be 13,029.62. And we've already approved an additional 10,341.62 from the original Stan Tech.
10,341.62.
So we've got to appropriate about 3,000 new funds to it.
$2,688 is the difference I'm showing.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be hard to get along with, but I just want to make sure our numbers line up and we have everything straight for our minutes.
Can't afford those surprises.
Okay. Gentlemen, how would y'all like to proceed?
Make a motion that we move forward.
Second.
Okay, with the amount of?
You said it was
13.
What was the total?
13,000.
So the total, we are changing the total from 22,632 to 25,320. The difference of that is the 2688, I believe.
Difference is what, Drew?
The amount we're changing for the total amount approved for Stantec is an additional 2,688 to get the total approved for Stantec up to 25,320.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So we got a motion to go with the numbers that Mr. Basie calculated.
Thank you, Bob.
I'll second.
No, I'm second. All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. What you got?
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure that the motion included for them to be able to move forward with the change order with the additional amount of 2,688 to come out of the well monies that were previously identified. I just want to tie that down a little bit so it's not additional monies coming from a separate area.
You want to make an amendment?
I'll amend it to that right there.
Second. Okay. All right. All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also, before I get out of here, I wanted to also just update you guys. With this permit application being submitted, the last thing that we still need to do is actually very simple. The well abandonment is the end goal, right? That's the last thing that's going to need to be done to actually get to that point. We would have to interconnect the three schools. That part has already been discovered since we've already discovered that domestic line that connects the schools together. The part that we are trying to figure out now is because there used to be a project that connected the elementary school to the old middle school that used to sit up at close to the very tip top of Academic Lane, since that ran behind the high school now where the new well house is. That line already exists. The problem is that when they took that interconnection apart, when they needed that project to not be happening anymore, there was a cap that was put on the domestic line somewhere. So now what we need to do is discover where that cap is. Once we discover where that cap is, if it's in between the high school and the elementary school, then we need to obviously reconnect that line. If it's not, if it's up where the middle school used to be and they just capped it right there, we don't need to pay anything for that. The line after that point would just need to be purged and rechlorinated so that we could use it again. After that, once we are at a part now, and maybe I could ask some advice from you guys here on this one, because this is something that I haven't really been able to decide what we should probably do here. The current chlorination system at the elementary school chlorinates all three types of water that we have going through it. That's domestic, irrigation, and fire flow. And that's because of where the chlorination system is set up. We could, if we have money in the earmarked funds, take that chlorination system, move it outside of the well house, and only chlorinate the domestic water. And the reason why that matters is because if you chlorinate all three types of that water, what happens is you start eroding the pipes, and we need to get those pipes replaced maybe 5 or 10 years down the line. We've already had to do it one time. So that's part of what I've been including in the request for proposals that I've been sending to the companies who I have requested quotes from. And I just want to know if that's something that maybe you guys would also consider we do now, or we maybe approach this at another time. I've just been thinking, let's just get it knocked out now.
What do you think the cost of that would be? Roughly.
I haven't gotten anything back on paper yet. I'm waiting on, so I've reached out to about 10 companies. I've had about 3 get back to me and say, no, they don't even want to take the project on. I have 2, Power and Flow and Sidner, that I'm waiting on proposals on now. And these proposals are to do everything that I just laid out for you guys, including moving that chlorination system outside of the well house. They're verbally, we're looking, he said maybe $50,000 to $60,000 for the entire thing. We think that's probably a little bit low, just because of, it's just good to always think that everything's probably going to cost more than a verbal quote. So I personally, I can't tell you exactly how much that would be. But what I can say is, based on that, I do not believe we would go over what money is still left in that account that's been earmarked. I think that is something that we can include in this in this project that we're trying to work on now and just go ahead and get it knocked out.
Well, that would reduce the chance of the drinking water being contaminated.
That was my next question. Is the chlorination system something required by state?
Yes.
And that is to purify the water?
Yes.
And I thought artesian water was the purest water known to man.
It is. It is.
You're also storing it.
It has to go through a storage tank. It has to go through pipes. It has to travel a far distance to get to us. You don't know what it's going to pick up along the way. And on top of that, part of the reason why we have to even abandon a well in the first place is because of the way that the wells are gravel packed. It could allow. So we don't know what we're bringing to us sometimes either from anybody else's area that the water could have passed through to get here.
I would get prices on it and bring it back to the board when you have prices and proposals.
Yep. My goal is to get those within the next week or two and then have that hopefully. The hard part is that we've already had the school board meeting for the month. So I may have to ask for a special meeting with the school board if I can get something back that can move past them so I can bring it to you guys again. But that's going to be what I want to try to do here so that we're not taking anything past the June 30th date. We could just be done with this at the end of June and move on. And we've got everything we need to get done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
Next item I have is to start discussions on the fiscal year 27 proposed budget. And if I can, Carl, thank you. First slide is related to the overall budget. The total draft budget includes $48,878,924. Next slide. Proposed budget does include the initial requests submitted by the departments, and we have started meetings with those departments with staff and Dr. Pika. It does include an adjusted tax rate of 51 cents. The equalized tax rate due to the reassessment is 0.4721. So this is the rate at which would bring in approximately the same amount of money with the reassessment. The current real estate tax rate is 74 cents. And the board did ask that Mr. Thomas come this evening related to the land use portion of this. I don't know if you have specific questions related to the land use for Mr. Thomas.
Have you done any adjustments for this year, upcoming year?
No, I looked at like 26.72% increase in land value for the entire town. That's everything. If I don't have the information as far as you would ask you, can you give me this year, but I added 26%, a little over 26%. But to the total and give it a lot of $200 and some $1 million something. Or that's what it was roughly. We got the biggest from. It was 166. But I left it as what it was current. And the reason why I did that is because as you experienced with group of people we get, I mean, farming today is totally different from what it was years ago. I don't think there are any better off today than back then. And he set the rate at 805. They're in line with Westmoreland now. And they get ready to start reassessment, and they won't change anything until 2028, I guess. And I look around and see the ones that have a higher rate on the overland do not tax farming. So in a situation where, got to do what we can to help these individuals. The biggest, deferred amount is when there's water flow involved. You know, I mean, you're looking at those $180,000 lots, and they're in land use and they're paying on that. The land use value is a lot different, but if they sell or if they change the use of it, then they're subject to the rollback tax 5 years of current. Long Bureau had wanted to do it for 10 years. Not a bad idea because that way you lock people in and you get all the money that was counted as lost from in the language. But it preserves our areas. We don't need any more new lots in development. So once we have, so a lot of my basically shoulders and these other subdivisions, that's land and now they all that stuff. I know they're built on. And so, you know, I just think that we need to leave it like it is, and we're going to lose $1 million every year because of that program. But I've checked with Westmoreland County, they lose $1 million every year. But it's preserved and preservation, so you need to look at that. Help these individuals that are trying to farm. I know that a lot of people from out of the county that family own farmland and they had daughters and they didn't want to go on the farm. And they moved on, but they're still depending on keeping the land family. Oh, maybe one of these days, maybe they'll come back and farm. But anyway, that's just the way I feel about it. Board, y'all look at it. I've always had land use, and I'm very supportive of land use. And you know, we don't have probably any difference in the forest land. They're saying $600, and we have 500 on it, so we're not looking at big money. Or most of it is marked. Okay, and if there's any questions on you, feel free to answer.
Any questions? Mr. Bishop? Mr. Weave? Mr. Long?
No.
Mr. Harris? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Next slide. So the budget does include, on the county side, 2% proposed salary increase, approximately 2% increase on the health insurance. The VRS multiplier increase is included for the higher hazardous duty from the 1.7 to the 1.85. The current rate for VRS is 12.88%. The new biennium rate is 15.03%. And with the higher multiplier, it raises that to 15.96%, which is an increase of approximately $60,184. The budget also includes the 2% salary increase for the school division, along with the 4.5% health insurance increase. Next slide. The undesignated fund balance did increase this year. Worked with the treasurer at getting that number. It's approximately 7.7 million. Like I said, that is an increase from last year. And that's been accomplished with work done for various reasons from various different sources. This budget does provide the board with options related to Davenport discussions regarding revenue continuing to build a solid fund balance. Davenport is willing to come back to the board at one of the work sessions and discuss the additional fund balance policies and procedures to put that in place to solidify that fund balance. One of the challenges that we are still facing is that the state has not adopted its final budget. Next slide. This just gives you an overview of our debt service. The school debt service is going to be paid off in 2037. Regional radio system, we just picked up the last couple of years, 2036. And then the most recent, the Series A and B bond related to the capital reimbursement projects that we've identified, that would be 2046. Next slide. So going forward, I don't know what work sessions the board may wish to have to discuss this. We do need to schedule the public hearing related to this. Along with this, with the tax rate provided, we would need or be required to hold another public hearing related to the tax rate. And that has to be held on a separate night than the actual public hearing of the budget. So I've reflected that up there, but this is just a proposed schedule. Just need some guidance from the board as to how you all wish to proceed forward in work sessions and advertising of the budget.
And like you've said before, we've advertised a higher rate, but we can reduce that rate. But once we advertise it, we can't go above it.
Right, and unless you hold another public hearing. Yes.
I think we need to get moving, and so we can start having our work sessions. Let's get this budget knocked out.
How much influence will the state budget have?
We've tried to build in what we anticipate the state coming in at. But there again, until they actually approve that, we don't have final figures.
How much longer will that be? Do you know?
I don't know. We're hoping for it any day now.
We just happen to anticipate too low with the problem.
Yeah. You got a question?
I do, and I don't know what guidance. I know that the county issued budget guidance. When I was here a couple times ago, we had three options that included both adding to the reserve, adding to the contingency. I know the numbers you sent me yesterday, Luttrell, reduced the amount to add to the reserves. That was a little bit less than what Davenport recommended, and it also eliminated the contingency. So I didn't know. The reason I'm bringing it up is if you advertise the amount there, does that amount on that first page include both the contingency and the reserve, or just the lower amount for the reserve?
That amount that I had in there would just be monies going back to the undesignated general fund balance.
Okay.
And it has not been identified as to which.
Right. But what amount was in there? Because the amount that we had talked about when we had all our discussions was around 1.8 million. The amount you had in the chart I saw was only 838,000. So again, if the board has made a decision already that you do not want to include both of those options in the budget, then I retract my question. If you haven't made the decision, then that clearly impacts the announcement that you make, because it could be $1 million less than an option you want to consider, or if not, I'm just bringing it up because it wasn't included in the amount I saw yesterday.
So to reflect that, what would have to change?
In order to identify that and put additional monies to that, you would have to look at the tax rate. Because I think in some of yours, you were showing, what was it, 900 and some thousand?
It was 900 for one, and so it was 1.8. But if you're looking at, if you go back to the previous slide, the assessment to equal what we're collecting now would be 0.47, but we're looking at a 0.51. I don't, in this part, I really admit I don't know how to do the math on y'all better than I am. I don't know, when you do 0.1%, that equals how many dollars? So we're already, if what we need for income is 48, if you approve the full budget, right? And I know we've had some conversations where there's going to be stuff that can be drawn down. So it was a 0.47 to do equal what we're collecting today, and what we're collecting today is 46, correct?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
So can you go back to the other slide? So there was a slide that said that if you wanted to equalize the tax rate to what we're collecting today, it'd be 0.47.
0.4721, right?
Right, but we're asking in this budget already a higher amount.
Right.
Does that 0.51 collect 48 million or more than 48 million?
No, that a penny on the levy is about 457,000.
Okay, so that means that we're 3 pennies, no, 4. So 4 times 4 is what, 1.6 million?
Right.
Right. So if that means that based on that 0.51, you would probably need to advertise a higher rate then to add to both the contingency and the reserves. Because we're about 2 million shy. 48 minus 46 is roughly 2 million. So that 4 then collects 1.6. So we're still short, right?
Right.
So you need 55 cents.
Right. Or we're already planning to build something that dips into the reserves.
Well, as of right now, depending on what other things come throughout the year with supplemental appropriations and things, let me get back to the other sheet here.
Because again, you can always advertise high and come down. But if we put this out and we're already shy a couple 100,000 or $1 million, then you have to re-advertise and you're not going to be able to adopt a budget by June.
Yeah, with 51 cent, and this is just proposed, you're looking at, with what was submitted, about $769,718.
Shortfall or overage?
Overage.
Which doesn't even...
So it doesn't cover what...
It doesn't cover... It doesn't give the board the options of looking at anything more than a $700,000 reserve deposit and no options for a rainy day. Thank you. No options for a rainy day fund, right? So again, this is just to raise the issue. The board can do what the board wants to do, but if you advertise this budget, you're limiting your options on what you want to put in reserve, what do you want to have available. And so if anything comes over next year, over $700,000 over, you're dipping into the reserves again and you'll have no deposit.
That's what we said we didn't want to. Shouldn't.
Mr. Thomas, you had a question?
Yeah, I know the board has been talking this twice a year comes of money and covers earlier. That's something you're going to do after this reassessment. You're looking. Don't want to do it again for reassessment the year before. So we all might need to look at that, and because it can be done. So a lot of that money, $20-something million, I mean, you have a might want to think about that. The board equalization, Monday is the last appointment, so we'll have some really good figures as far as what those figures will be. I'm hoping that you'll send them what or not next week. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, so one of the things that we were doing too, we were looking at different options, and I took that middle option with some modifications, and I threw that into the formula. And by doing that, if you did those, and that's if you looked at those specific cuts, you're looking at about 1.1 million adding to the undesignated fund balance. So it does. That's if you kept the rate at 51 cent and did those specific cuts. Now, as Dr. Pika said, you can certainly advertise higher and come down, but you can't go up.
What's your thoughts, Mr. Fisher?
I agree with Karen. For a simple reason. We can come down if necessary. We have the option not to if we don't need to. I think it's an insurance policy. It's not going to be accepted by the public that way. But we got to do what's best for the county. Sitting here starving the county to death, not the best thing to do in some cases.
Mr. Wade?
I'd be okay with it, advertising it. When you say, Karen, 55 cents?
And this is really a tough one. I don't understand the math on that one. Believe it or not, I don't. So
That would be an additional
1.6 million on top of the 700.
Right. So yeah, we need to get to around, in order to cover the overage, we're already 2 million under. So we have to collect that 2 million. Plus, if you want to collect enough, if you want to have enough revenue to be able to do even 800,000 deposits a piece for both, say, contingency, that's 1.6. So now you're at 3.6. And again, this does not cover, for everyone who's listening and everyone who's here, that is not a guaranteed revenue increase because, as Mr. Tadlock mentioned, there have been a lot of meetings that have resulted in cuts. But if the board chooses not to make all those cuts, you have to have the option of having advertised the highest amount. So, Luttrell, unless I'm wrong, it's roughly, we're already 2 million short. Plus you add in the amount you want to add to the reserves, even if you conservatively do 800,000, that's 3.6 that needs to be added in the revenue bucket. Because don't forget, in the past, we were counting the reserves in the revenue. So when you pull that number out, that's already 3 million gone. So we roughly need about 3.6 to give you guys all the options to play with.
Yeah, and that's not reflected in this budget. The undesignated fund balance is not reflected in the revenue in this budget.
The revenue in the revenue side.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah, we took that out, and that's why you automatically had a 2 million shortfall.
The old saying, you pay me now, you pay me later. Last year, we took a lower number and we ended up borrowing money. And the interest we paid on that money would bust the school buses. Just saying. I don't want my taxes to go up either.
I don't either.
But I can't ask DEPCO to cut their power bill on me. They're going to charge what they charge.
So, yeah, I think you're going to be looking at 55. 55, 56.
Well, we look for a motion on it.
Let's let him. I'm gonna let Luttrell finish running his numbers out. See him over there. I don't want to disturb him.
No, you all go ahead. I was just trying to get back to some preliminary numbers, but you all let me know what you all are thinking.
We did 55% cover the range that they're looking for, and we could go down from there. If
So initially with everything, and I'm doing this on the fly here, it looks like you're looking at, it would be about 2.5 million with the 55% being added to it.
Would you say we put 2 million in the red?
So if that first chart, bring that up again, you'll notice automatically the expenses were estimated at 48 and the revenue was estimated at roughly, where are we at? Here we go, 48. So we're at 2.7, excuse me. There's already a 2.7 shortfall right there. And that number, Luttrell, though, that on the right-hand side does include 800,000 to the reserves, correct?
It was 700 and some thousand. It's that bottom over there.
All right. So you're already 2.7 short. You've built in a $700,000 deposit to the reserves. 769, and you have zero cushion, meaning another sewer pipe break, and you're dipping into the reserves. If the reserves right now, you said they're at 7 million. They were at 3 last year. 7.7. Okay. So if there's 2.7 short there, you're adding 700,000 into the reserves. If you only wanted to add an extra, let's say 800,000, and again, the reason I'm coming up with these numbers is Davenport recommended in their September, thank you, Morgan, in their September last year presentation that we have 2% of the budget that gets added to the reserves, and we have 2% of our expenses added to, I'm calling it a contingency fund, they call it like a rainy day fund. They recommended that that happen once you get to your final balance in the reserves. Based on how things have changed and happened in the county, I think it's prudent to do it now. So that the 2% that I'm talking about is based on Davenport's recommendations, not a number I pulled. So if you want to add 900,000, you're looking at 2.7 and 900,000, you're at 3.6. If you don't want to add the 900,000, that's a choice you can make. So you're already 3.6 short if you want to consider all your options. And again, for everyone who's listening in the public, there have been cuts identified already that can happen in that budget to bring down that 4.8, which would then bring down the tax rate, the tax collection. As the Board of Supervisors, if you want to look at all the options for the health of the county, we need to go to 3.6, a $3.6 million difference. And I don't know what that means in terms of the tax rate. Or you can decide tonight that you don't want to do, you do not want to consider the contingency fund, advertise the lower rate. And again, as a citizen, I don't want my taxes going up either. I'm extremely concerned that over the past few years, we've had a lot of hiccups that have happened. We've had to dip in that reserve. If we're in a position as county where we borrowed money to get through. Twice a year billing will help, but you're also going to raise, that raises costs on the treasurer's office based on the budget that they have. So that all has to be considered. So if the board wants the maximum number of options to be considered for next year's budget, you got to raise that number. You got to raise it to plus 3.6.
1 cent on the levy was how much?
470, wasn't it?
1 cent on the levy is 457,000 roughly.
We're back up to 57 now.
Yeah.
Why cuts are so important, but again, if you don't want to close on your options, you don't have them.
What's your number saying, Mr. Williams?
Not advertising high enough, and we'll use that for 217. And we're going to try to replenish the general fund.
Buster, what's that timeline on the advertising of this? Where if we don't make a decision tonight and we make it at the meeting next week, how far will that put us behind on your timeline?
Carl, if you could go to the last slide. So you would be looking at pushing your public hearing to May 28th and your tax rate adjustment to the June 4th. And you could still potentially have a budget adoption on June 11th. So they're in that time frame.
Bottom line, it's not going to push it past June 11th if things fall in place, right?
Right. The one thing that I would need to check on, I know the county budget, you cannot take any action on for 1 week after. One of the things I would want to check on would be, as far as the tax rate adjustment public hearing, if action can be taken, if there's a time limit on when action can be taken on the budget after that public hearing. But you could take action on June 12th, as far as I know, if there was some critical situation there as far as timing.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Fisher? We need to give Mr. Tadlock some guidance on what we need to do here. Whether he needs to go back tomorrow to run the numbers and add this in and see where we're going to be to advertise it, or?
Yeah, so it looks like, let me make sure I've got the right number here. With a 57-cent tax rate, real estate tax rate, it's going to be, and we'll want to confirm these numbers. You're looking at about 3.487. That's with as submitted by the department.
Okay.
But again, I'm doing it on the fly, and I want to make sure I have those numbers confirmed. So,
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, we've got to determine how much money we might potentially need to generate tax levy. And I think $2.7 million was the difference in the last year's proposed revenue and this year's proposed revenue. And then the $900,000 was what?
The 900,000 is if you want to have a contingency fund. So that would secure essentially your deposit into the reserves as untouchable and give you a rainy day fund. You don't have to have both, but advertising gives you that option.
Oh, let's clarify something, because we're hearing that we got a $2 million shortfall, but in reality, we do and we don't. Basically, has been done different in the budget is we're not looking at the reserve fund, if I'm using the correct terminology, as revenue. We've pulled that out of the budget, and that's what it is. It's a reserve fund, savings. So it's not that we overspent $2 million, because I don't want that to get out there. It's just that we've separated that fund from revenue.
Thank you. That's correct. The numbers in that chart, the 48, 46, in the past, the county has been adding the reserve fund as a source of revenue. The auditor caught us on it a couple of times. And so that is what created the difference. It wasn't because anyone in the county overspent. It was simply because the balance sheet now shows true revenue versus savings account. That's correct.
Okay. I just wanted
one number is no longer part of the equation.
That's correct. And if you look at the 700,000 that's already planned to be added to the reserve fund, that then lowers even more what your difference is. And don't forget that amount includes if everybody gets everything they asked for, which never happens.
Right.
So I would argue that you could have the work sessions. You could start having your work sessions next week, and we could start having conversations about what has already been identified. All the divisions have been met with. And so you could even have more of an update when the public hearing is held. Between now and then, if you had a work session or two, you could probably have even more information. So if people asked, we're presenting concerns, you could have them. But I'm just worried that you're limiting your options by not putting everything out there, and then you're in a corner.
So is everybody comfortable with the county administrator running the numbers and making sure they're correct and advertising it to 57%? Not saying that we're going to do it, but it gives you options to come down. That's going to get a lot of attention, but he's got to have a starting point. He's got to be able to advertise something.
And if you'd like, that pushes you back a week, what I can do is provide the board with different tax rates and what impacts that has on the undesignated fund balance as far as what amounts go to the undesignated fund balance. I am in contact with Davenport. I don't know, one of the things that I was trying to do is get them to come out next week at our meeting, so we could have a conversation at that time as well. But yeah, I can run several different options for the board to review.
We can make a decision next week at the board meeting then.
Right. Or at a work session earlier.
Okay.
Like a work session, because I really like work sets too.
Yeah.
I think we need to have that number before we just throw this number out. Realistic number somehow. All honesty.
How much were you looking to contribute to the undesignated fund balance cycle?
And that's the discussion we need to have, because, Davenport recommend 2%. But that was a recommendation, but we need to, whatever we do, we need to be consistent and make sure we start building it back up. So I guess we're going to have a work session, and let's get our heads together and decide what we want to do. Then we can move forward from there.
All right. I can put together some numbers related to that and to show what the impacts would be.
Okay.
All right.
One thing before I forget, Mr. Thomas has got a young lady that's working in his office. It's been there 39 years. And Jason Patton put something in on social media today, Miss Lisley. He's 93 years old.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
And comes to work every single day and drives herself to work. We have an employee like that. We need to recognize that employee. I'd like to see something, if we could put it together between then and a resolution for next week's meeting. You good with that?
Fine with that.
Yeah, sure. Yes, she is.
And
they're very kind. They're very kind.
Yeah,
I think Todd should be part of that resolution.
Absolutely. Yes. And matter of fact, you don't mind working with Luttrell on that, and we will put you in charge of contacting her family to let them know.
Next week board meeting.
Yes, sir. Yep. We got to recognize the people.
Yeah.
93 years old. That is remarkable to be able to come to work every day.
Remarkable would be a lot.
Yeah.
93.
And the Gardy's Mill Pond hearing is May 28th, 5 to 7 p.m. at Callao Fire Department. And that's in regards to the Gardy's Mill Pond.
You're going to be here. May 28th.
Yes, but I don't have to be a part of that in Cali, but just wanted to get that in there.
May the 28th.
Yes, sir. Didn't mean to interrupt, Dr. but I just wanted to get those two things in.
What time? What time?
5 to 7 p.m.
So, that's our board meeting.
Closed session.
That's what I have on.
All right. How about if we take a 10-minute break before we go into closed session?
Right.
You good with that, Mr. Long?
Fantastic.
Yes, sir. I'm looking out for you. I got you back.
Good.
All right, you good call.
Yeah, we're back in the regular. Took a little bit longer break.
During the break, I think some numbers were run again regarding the well and the Stantec change order. And I think with the motion that was previously made, we need to rescind that motion for a new amount. And I'll let Mr. Basie and Mr. Hardcastle still here as well to explain that.
So I had originally misunderstood what Mr. Hardcastle was saying, and I thought he was saying the new grand total for the project with Stantec was going to be the 25,320. What he was actually saying was the new amount due to them remaining was going to be 25,320. So instead of us needing to increase the amount there to 2688, we actually need to increase the amount with Stantec by 14,978.38, and then we also need to have an additional 9,000 added to that amount that we are looking at the board to consider approving related to the permit for the well. So the new amended total related to the well would be 23,978.38. Is that correct, Mr. Hardcastle?
I'll make a motion to amend that to 23,978.38.
Second. All right, we need to rescind the original motion. Or
amend, rescind.
Okay.
If you want,
But I'll do whatever you want.
well, actually, I would rescind it because the 23,978 is going to be the total. So, let's rescind it just to be clean. Let's rescind that motion and then do the new
Motion to rescind it.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Now make a motion, make the new amount 23,978.38.
Second.
All in favor?
And that's going to be for the coming out of the well, those identified monies from the well monies.
Yes. Yes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all.
All right, now we're back on track.
Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. Need a motion that the Northumberland County Board of Supervisors convene in closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Freedom of Information Act, Section 2.2, 3711A1 for the discussion consideration of personnel matters, and Section 2.2, 3711A29, discussion of the award of public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such a contract where discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. Invited to attend the closed meeting as necessary are the county administrator, Mary Dotson, and assistant county administrators. They are deemed necessary and their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the topics to be discussed pursuant to Virginia FOIA Section 2.2, 3712F.
Okay, can I have a motion to go to closed? Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, now in closed session.
That the Northumberland Board of Supervisors return to public meeting and certify by roll call vote and only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Fisher?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Long?
Aye.
Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Brand's aye. Only thing we got to decide on is a meeting.
If y'all wish to have a work session.
Yep. Monday, we got a meet.
Huh?
We got a meeting at 5:30 already.
It's coming Monday.
Yeah.
This comment, man.
That's with, Shannon and Rachel, and myself, and
That's not.
William. Board meetings Thursday. So if we're gonna do anything, we got what, Tuesday and Wednesday?
Wednesday is bad for me. I got two meetings at,
I'm fine with Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, when, this Tuesday coming?
Be Tuesday the 12th.
What time is that? 5:30?
5:30 is fine. Well, it needs to be later, we can do later.
So 5:30.
I'm good right now. All right, you're good.
And that's what day, 12th?
Well,
All right, that'll be our first work session.
Are there any departments you wish to invite to that meeting or any agencies or?
Who do y'all wanna meet with? Got anyone you wanna meet with, or do y'all wanna have a first meeting just to go over the budget? And get familiar with it, and
I think that, I would like to see us do that.
you'd like to
First-
do that, Mr. Long?
Yeah, first meeting, let's go over the budget. Be familiar.
Marshall, could I get a paper copy?
Yes, me too. Good.
Me too.
You, so maybe 5 of them?
Sure.
I just do better being able to look at the paper.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah, we can do that. And, just keep in mind I can print it off as I had it tonight with the 51 cent, if you want. Just realize that number may fluctuate.
Right,
That's fine.
But it'll at least give you the expenditure side of
That's
things.
fine.
right.
That'll work. Okay. All right. Need to carry over until Tuesday?
Right, you could go ahead and adjourn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion.
Second? All in favor?
Uh,
Aye.